Well, this is the topic. What do you want to? I mean,
I
you wanted to
well,
talk to me about this
I
stuff
want
that
to
you
talk
think.
about longevity in
Okay,
case
go
any of
ahead.
us
Go ahead.
survive this.
Go ahead.
So, apropos of health, I want to announce that I'm going to go on an NMN experiment to see if I can extend my life through anti-aging supplements. And you should put that in the title of our video. We'll get more views. Because what a lot of people are doing is using themselves as guinea pigs with the latest scientific information from Harvard and MIT.
All right.
There are
So,
two supplements that I'm going to be taking. Uh, uh, one is called NMN, and the other is called transresveratrol.
hmm
And they're kind of expensive, and you have to take a blood test first to establish a baseline of what all your levels really are. So I'm going in for the blood test on Thursday this week, and then I'm going to start taking the supplements, and I'm going to be reporting back on this show every 6 months when I react to it. And in 1 year, if I haven't altered my numbers and actually shown progress in my aging, then I'll stop doing it. It should cost around $800
all right.
to do the whole thing.
So the people who are testing you say there are blood markers, chemicals in your blood that show your how your youthfulness.
Okay, your biological, okay, my chronological age is 59, but my biological age could be much younger than that or much older. And there is a test that I'm going to take on Thursday that will evaluate my true biological age. Now, once you get the supplements and you start using them, the good news is that within 6 months, you should actually show a change in your cells. You go back in, you take another test, and the the scientists that are doing this are betting that you will actually see a change in your cells. Now, what these supplements do is they repair your cells that have gotten older. They strengthen the mitochondria, which give your cells your energy, and they repair and lengthen the telomeres. So, uh, if I do that, if I can restore my mitochondria, my telomeres, the general health of the cell back to what it was when I was younger, I will effectively start anti-aging. I will stop aging.
Well, all right. So people who specialize in this in anti-aging theorization, guys like Aubrey de Grey, say there are 7 issues of aging that all need to be solved before you get a really, effective anti-aging regimen. And one of them, I think, is your mitochondria, which are the energy, the little engines in your cells. Fixing your mitochondria is one of the 7, I think, areas. So NMN apparently is supposed to address that, among other things. I'll read you what Wikipedia says briefly. NMN is a derivative of niacin, and humans have enzymes that can use it to generate NADH.
I can explain it, Rick.
Okay.
I can explain it a little clearer because I've been reading about it.
A potential neuroprotective and anti-aging agent. Dietary supplement companies have aggressively marketed NMN products, claiming those benefits. NMN, your body takes everything a lot of the stuff you eat and makes it into other stuff. So if you take niacin, which is part of the B family of vitamins, or you eat foods that have B vitamins in them, your body is making NMN out of that stuff, though you will tell me that as you get older, it becomes less effective at making the NMN. So you have to take it.
Yeah. What you have, what this, okay, there is I believe, a very small amount of the NMN, uh, okay, there's a small amount in regular food. But what they've done is they've distilled it into a much, much more powerful version than the niacin that you would get at the drugstore. And the NMN, they've actually watched it permeate the cells. Once you get it into your body, that's just the beginning. You got to make sure that it gets itself into your cells and doesn't just get excreted out.
Right. So do they have something that protects it from your digestive system? Because that's the trouble with resveratrol, which is what you mentioned earlier.
Okay, well, there's two problems with the resveratrol. First of all, you're not supposed, the regular resveratrol is useless. What I'm using is something called trans resveratrol. And I put the trans resveratrol, that's the one that survives and makes it all the way to your cells. The trans resveratrol has to be eaten with fat. If you don't eat it with fat, it doesn't make it in. So there's two mistakes that you made, because I know you tried this years ago. You can't use the regular resveratrol because it doesn't survive. And you can't eat even if you get the trans resveratrol, you have to use it with fat.
Well, now what about using it with fat? Because there's a thing I take called Ficitin, which it's as experimental as the shit you're taking. And the deal is that I used to take Ficitin is a senolytic, which means that it's supposed to help your body, make your body more effective at killing cells that are shitty and should be eliminated from your body.
Right, the zombie cells. Yeah, those.
All that they hang out. If shitty cells, all the shitty cells do is increase inflammation and just make you overall less healthy. So I used to take that stuff without fat, and I would have diarrhea 3 hours later, which meant that it got absorbed from my stomach and made me sick from the point at which it was absorbed through my stomach. Then I started mixing it with fat, and if I get diarrhea at all, I don't get it until 15 hours later, which means the stuff is making it much farther through my digestive tract, and much more of it is being absorbed.
Okay, well, there's two things about that. The first thing is that you should start with a smaller amount and work yourself up slowly. So ultimately what you want is to use 1 gram of the trans resveratrol, 1 gram of NMN, and then some people are using 1 gram of metformin. But it should take a year to work up to that. And I think you get diarrhea immediately because I think you have to condition your body for it by starting at 1/4 of a gram for a few months, then 1/2 gram for a few months.
The deal is, no, the Ficitin will give you diarrhea regardless.
Okay, well, I'm not using Ficitin.
No, but
now I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about, though, because one of the other causes for aging is that if you've got these dummy cells in you that are supposed to be liver cells, and they're no longer anything. You're old, so they've lost their ability to be a liver cell, or they've lost their ability to be a brain cell or a heart cell. So they're just sitting there, and so you become more and more a lump of useless stuff. Everything stops functioning because your cells aren't as, 100% devoted to what they were supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me explain to you, because you interrupted me, and it's fair, but I just have to explain because there are some people following this. Inside all of your cells is something called NAD. If you didn't have the NAD, you'd die immediately. The NAD is what's basically repairing all your cells all the time. What the NMN and the trans-resveratrol do is get in there and add more NAD. The older you are, the less of it you have. The more of it you have, the more it can repair your cells. Now, I just want a word of caution on all of this. No one knows. They're doing studies every day, including human trials, to see if it's safe. If it turns out that it's not safe and anything changes in my blood, I'm monitoring this. So I'll probably get a blood test after 4 months, probably at 8 months, probably at 1 year. So I'm going to know if it's giving me cancer or something terrible. So as a word of caution and civic responsibility, if anybody's going to follow along with me on this or do their own research, make sure you take continuous regular tests to make sure that you're not doing yourself any harm.
All right.
That's
So usually I'm not the voice of reason on this shit, but I'm going to try to be the voice of reason now. So trans-resveratrol is the mirror image of regular resveratrol. It's this, when a molecule has a certain shape, it can come in also its mirror image form, cis and trans. So this is the mirror image. So you're saying the mirror image makes it further through your digestive system without being knocked out by your liver. I don't know.
Exactly. Well, the person that I got that from was the head of Harvard anti-aging. Harvard and MIT have departments that study the aging of the cell.
Yeah, I've got in my refrigerator. I've got a shitload of trans-resveratrol, and I think I stopped taking it because it didn't make sense, because the liver knocks out more than 99% of it. Resveratrol is very effective, but only if you inject it. Like they've done studies with monkeys, and you can look up the pictures online. The resveratrol monkey is just as old as the regular monkey, but looks like a young, youthful, virile monkey, while the non-resveratrol monkey has, man boobs and is floppy and just looks like an old man. Now
I have no doubt. So let me ask you
the monkey was getting the resveratrol monkey was getting injections. So the way to do it is to get injections.
Okay, here is my question then. So now I'm going to ask you a question. It's very easy. For a long time, it became a fad to inject yourself with vitamin B, as I recall. I mean, that's not... Well, what I'm saying is, though, it's not that unusual for people to inject themselves with it. So my question is, why is it that the top scientists are taking this in under-the-tongue and capsule supplements rather than injecting themselves? I mean, surely they've thought of that.
I'm going to have to. When I was taking it, I was putting it under my tongue, and it just seemed kind of bullshitty. But I don't know. But two more things: the resveratrol monkey looked a lot better than the regular monkey, but it didn't live any longer. It just lived better until it died at the regular age.
Well, one of the things that the head of the Harvard department said, and his name is Dr. David Sinclair. He's very famous. What he says is that, look, what we're trying to do is to get people to live to be 100, which is not that unusual. There are people living to be 100. But instead of just being basically skeletons lying in a bed at the age of 100, they will be walking around, they will be active, they will be picking up their great-grandchildren. They will lead the lives that people do today in their 70s.
Okay. So
that's something that he feels is reasonable.
All right, so let me be the voice of reason one more
So
time.
wait, you might not live to be 120, but your elderly years will be a lot more fruitful.
So my mother-in-law, who's 87, lives in a senior living community. And that's where the young olds, people my age, who they go to visit the old olds, the people in their 50s and 60s, who put their parents in these joints, go to visit. So you got people in their 50s and 60s visiting people in their 80s. And it's very clear when you walk around that joint that we have a long fucking way to go to make people in their 80s look like people in their 60s. Because in our 50s and 60s, we're still making new cells. There's a thing we've talked about before called the Hayflick limit, which is how many times your cell can split and make a new fucking cell, right? And it's like 50 times. And then old people, most of their cells are done reproducing, and they just have to keep trying to live using their old shitty cells that aren't making new cells anymore. And people in their 80s look a lot and act a lot fucking different from people in their 50s and 60s. And I don't think all the fucking NMN in the world is gonna affect that. There's nobody now. Some of the people.
Well, I have an answer.
But hold on one sec. Okay. One sec. Some of the people in senior living look a lot better than other people and act a lot more with it than other people. But nobody in their 80s looks like they're in their 60s. You know, Jane Fonda does, but Jane Fonda has spent a shitload of money on, over her life on looking, and she's exercised her ass off. And I think probably if you got Jane Fonda naked and minus her makeup, you would not mistake Jane Fonda for somebody in her 60s. But go ahead.
All right. Well, look, this is what the people that are experimenting with this are doing is giving it to their parents who are in their 80s and 70s. And those people, I've seen a film, maybe it's a fraud, of a guy in his 80s, David Sinclair's father, and he's leg pressing more than I can. And I'm in my 50s. So he couldn't do it before they started giving him the NMN. Now, it's possible that Harvard and MIT are lying, but if they're lying, then, I don't know at what point do you just say, well, there's no one you can trust? There's no science that could possibly be trusted.
All right, so hold on. I found a picture of David Sinclair's father, and he looks pretty good, but he doesn't look like he looks like a very healthy guy. Now, wait a second. No, that's David Sinclair himself, who's in his 60s. Wait a second. All right. Now what? Oh, now I can't get past the fucking. Come on.
All right. Well, look, Rick. All I'm saying is that what they're saying is that if you want to try to repair your cells, this they believe will do it. As far as people in their 80s now that have never done this, sure, they're going to look like crap. And if you don't exercise, and if you don't, if you eat too much, yeah, you're going to look like crap. I mean, one of the things that every one of these anti-aging people says, every single one says the same thing. You got to lower your calorie intake so you stay thin, and you got to exercise.
Yeah, well, there's
nothing works if you don't do those two things.
There's nobody fat in senior living. I've seen very few fat people in senior living because the deal is, if you're fat, you die, or if you're fat, you eventually become unfat, and just your appetite drops, and by the time you're in your 80s, you're not fat. There are very few fat people who are 85 years old.
Right.
Yeah, just yeah, the people get weeded out. So this stuff this stuff may address some of this shit, but as Aubrey de Grey says, there are a bunch of different issues involved with aging. And the deal is, since we already live a long time of, for an animal, we've a lot of the fixes that make a short-lived animal, like fucking possums, have a different reproductive model than we do. Possums are shitty. Or like, let's do a flower example. You're familiar with orchids, right, Lance?
No,
You haven't seen orchids?
I've seen them.
No, I'm boy, because I'm echoing now. Let me back up. No, I didn't have a headphone. Okay, I'll back up. The deal is, orchids are well-made flowers. They hang around. They stay on the stem, viable for like 2 weeks or more. And the plant puts a lot of effort into making an orchid flower, compared to like daffodils, which they only last like 3 fucking days. They're really like possums are the daffodils of the mammal world. The average possum only lives for like 2 years, because the model is for fucking possums to have shitloads of litters, just spit out endless possums, and they're crap. They get eaten by predators left and right. There's a guy in my neighborhood who watches the possums. They go to sleep in trees with their tails wrapped around limbs, and when they fall asleep, their tails relax and they fall on the ground, and coyotes eat them. That's just a bad survival model. But the model is that you just make so many fucking possums, they keep going because they're disposable, expendable. But if you could give a lot of these drugs to possums and double their lifespans and triple them to like 6 years, because possums are made like crap. We're made better. We last for 80, 90, 100 years. So we're already naturally taking advantage of a lot of the fixes. We've evolved fixes for aging that shittier animals haven't. So when new fixes come along, they don't push our lifespans or our health spans as far as they do for like tapeworms. So a lot of this stuff, like this NMN, may be part of an overall anti-aging regimen of the future, but there are still all these missing links to shit we need to do.
Well, one of the things that was very interesting, because if you go on YouTube and just type in NMN experiment, not right this second, but after we're done, there are a dozen people that are doing this online and just sort of sharing their experiences. Yeah. And one of the couples that did it and got absolutely no change in their numbers was a couple that were under 30. And it turns out that that's because you don't start losing NAD. You don't start. Now remember, the NAD is what you need that is being boosted. You don't lose your NAD until you're past 30. You start losing it every year. So it has the NMN can't boost what you don't need to boost. And so it doesn't affect people under 30. But the older you get, the less you have, and the more useful this stuff can be.
So I'm going to research it, and maybe I'll start trying it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. As you know, I think we've discussed it openly. I believe that you got cancer because of the amazingly complex and huge amounts of supplements that you're taking.
I disagree with that. I think maybe some certain specific ill-advised ones did that. Okay. Maybe not. But I don't think it was just because I took a shitload of different stuff. I think it was like specific things that maybe got in there and ill-advised ones.
Well, my point, though, is that if you were to do this with me, I would like you to just cut out all the supplements except the 2 that I'm taking so that we know if this is working. And again, everybody else is taking the metformin as the third drug, the
Yeah.
third supplement. I'm not taking the metformin, and this is the reason. I'm obsessed with weightlifting, and metformin apparently mitigates and inhibits the benefits of weightlifting and exercise. So you don't need it, so I'm not going to do it. So anyway,
I've been taking metformin for like 12 years.
well, you had a great body when I was painting you shirtless. I mean,
Well, I still kind of do.
I don't know. I haven't seen you shirtless in almost a year, but you did have a very muscular body.
Well, I still have
So
the same body. I'm just a little, I'm skinny because I freak out over Trump and I get the shits. But
so you're shitting out calories
I have
before you
been
can
since
absorb
the
them?
guy got elected. Yeah, that's my deal. Like if I eat too many carbs, yeah, I
You
get the
still
shits.
have that?
Not as bad, but yeah, sometimes.
All right. Well, apparently the metformin is not keeping you from having an athletic build.
Yeah.
So maybe that is the way to go. Maybe I should do that too. But let's talk further. Anyway, we got 15 more minutes. Let's give our millions of viewers one more topic, maybe, and then we sign off.
All right, director, what do we got?
Give me first. Tell me when we've started.
Rolling.
All right, so this is 147.2.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to say, Rick said something. He said there's going to be this massive number of cases, probably because he's doing the math. And I said, no, I don't believe that. And I didn't give a reason that I didn't believe it. And in this show, we try to be ultra rational. So it wasn't because of a mood I'm having. I think there are three things that are going to happen. Number one, I believe that the virus is going to start dying out once the weather warms up. Number two, I think people are going to start developing herd immunity. And number three, I think if it does come back when it gets cold again, which is what a lot of people are afraid of, I think by then we'll have a vaccine or a cure.
All right. So you know how herd immunity works, right?
No.
Oh, well, herd immunity works when a significant percentage of the population has gotten the disease and is now immune to it.
Yeah.
So
well, I
you can't-
assume
you
that.
can't-
Yeah. So
doesn't-
in a way, the quarantining is kind of fights against that.
No, the deal is like idiots in London, in England, are saying, well, everybody should just get sick right away, so then we'll have herd immunity, which is a recipe for disaster. The deal is that vaccine aside, and you have to put it aside because it's going to take a year to be there. You want to flatten the curve so hospitals aren't overwhelmed.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, we're doing that. I mean, we can't goddamn leave the house in LA, apparently.
So all right, here's my reasoning. The deal is say the population of the planet is 8 billion, just to be simple. So you look at countries that seem to be doing a good job at containing it. And that includes China, apparently, because they had the first bunch of cases. They've had 81,000 cases so far, but yesterday or today they've only had 16 new cases, which is...
Yeah, I don't think we can really believe anything they say.
Okay, but...
In China, but if you're going to say only the advanced countries will be able to deal with this,
no,
I
what
believe
I'm
you.
saying is, like, only the countries who go, like, China's a dictatorship, so they maybe were able to do some severe shit and really fucking get a handle on it. And then like South Korea has 8,200 cases, but today they only have 74 new cases, which is a rate of less than 1% new cases. All right, so the deal is that out of a world population of 8 billion, I doubt, like, if this shit gets loose in India, and there's no reason that it shouldn't, India, is super disorganized and not a dictatorship. They're a democracy, right? And if it gets loose there, they've got 1.4 billion people. Anyway, my overall argument is that maybe there are two countries with a total population of 2 billion that might be able to keep a lid on it. That leaves 6 billion in the rest of the countries where it'll run more or less wild. Like, take for instance fucking Russia, which is way down here in the number of cases. Russia says it has 63 cases so far. You know what that fucking means? That means Russia is fucking lying. That they don't know what they have, and it's going to run wild in Russia, I assume. I mean, maybe just people haven't gone to Russia and spread it yet, but there are a bunch of countries that are going to handle it ineptly, so maybe we'll get a handle on it in the U.S., and we'll be able to flatten the curve, and won't have that many cases, but I think there are a lot of places on the planet where they're just going to do I believe there are big swaths of Africa where, maybe not all of Africa. Africa's a big ass. They've got like 50 countries in Africa, and don't tell me all 50 countries have competent government. So maybe it won't run wild here.
All right. Well, listen.
I don't know. Australia.
The director makes a great point. There's hardly any in Africa.
But no, the deal is, you know why there's hardly any in Africa? Because they don't know how to track the shit. The shit is in, or maybe it hasn't reached there yet because it started in China. I don't know how much traffic between China and Africa there. It's in 100. Well, yeah, but I don't think that's a matter of climate. I think it's a matter of traffic and also whether they're competent at catching it. And all these arguments will know more about it in 2 weeks.
You can't deny that the heat does kill this virus. It doesn't survive in hot weather. We know that.
You can deny it. You don't know. There's not enough data yet. This virus has only been known for 3 months. It started in December and it's March. So
all right. All right, well, let's move on. I'm going to let you have the last word on that. Is there another topic? I just got to
say that, that what we know about Trump's response to this is almost entirely a function of the media that we listen to. You listen to conservative media, and they're telling you that Trump got in there and got rid of the bottlenecks started by Obama, and I listen to my media, and they say that Trump and they show video of spectacularly unconcerned and also not understanding, saying it was going to disappear like magic. You're kind of saying that because summer will come, like it'll be a miracle, Trump says. We were told a lot in my media that Trump fired the pandemic response team in 2018. The Trump
and I told you it was because he felt that there were too many people there that weren't necessary, and he hired back even more. In fact, as I say, the CDC has a bigger budget now than it did under Obama.
Yeah, because we're in the middle of the shit.
No, even before that, even before we got this virus, the CDC was fully funded. So you're listening to propaganda. I have a quick answer. I have a quick solution. Under Obama, 14,000 dead. We will see in 3 months if Trump can beat that, and I believe he will. I mean, we're living in an almost shut down United States.
Well, okay, we're getting into a tricky moral area because I'm not cheering for people to die. The people
I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying you are.
The people who are at risk from this, are everybody's grandmas and grandpas, and
yeah.
I want us to get lucky, or I want our closing down of everything to be effective.
Well, we're closing the United States down.
What?
I mean, we're in martial law practically. Well, look, I got to be honest with you. The Democrats are gleeful because they were looking at zero chance of getting Biden elected. He's a worse candidate than Hillary. If there is another topic, the question is, since we last had this video, Trump challenged a guy to a fight. He challenged a guy to a fight.
What, Trump challenged Biden to a fist fight?
No, Biden.
Oh, yeah, he got feisty with with a steel worker or something. Yeah, I don't know if
the steel worker had the audacity,
a welder or something,
to disagree with him about his gun policy, and Biden offered to fight him outside. It's insane. This man, he forgot his own name. There are hundreds of videos now of Biden doing things that clearly he's senile. He's in dementia right now.
No, did you see tonight's debate?
No.
Okay, so he was on stage for 2 hours, and it was just him versus one other guy fielding questions, and he was perfectly with it. You could probably, I saw one time where he stumbled and he corrected it himself. He said the coronavirus when he meant the swine flu, and then he caught himself. And there were like some verbal hesitations, but they were, overall, his speaking, I mean, he didn't make huge mistakes, and he didn't have, I didn't see the whole thing because I was running upstairs to tweet about shit, but he spoke perfectly lucidly and reasonably and combatively when that was necessary. And
okay, well, next time.
What?
Okay, fine. But next time we get together, I can show you videos, I mean, a dozen, of Biden rambling like a lunatic. And these are not doctored videos. Nothing's taken out.
I know he tells stories about he had like the kids like to touch the hair on his legs or something because he had nice legs or some shit.
Yeah, but there's 10 more since then.
All right, so you can show them to me.
So so the question is your hatred of Trump so severe that you're willing to have a guy in office? You think his advisors will be able to control him?
But I saw the guy speak perfectly well and lucidly and persuasively.
I just want to tell you that if Russian missiles were coming at the United States, he would have less than 15 minutes to decide what to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will do what the president says and not listen to his advisor who jumps in and says, "Don't do that." I'm just saying, you're hoping that he's surrounded with advisors, but they're not going to be able to control what he says. If he wants something done, he's the president, and he'll be able to get a lot of crazy stuff to happen.
But he sounds reasonable to me. I
think maybe they were able to shoot him full of drugs so that he could get through 2 hours.
The media is making a concerted effort. That's the issue that you're going to grab onto.
No, it's not. It's not the issue. I didn't talk about it last week. Last week I talked about his policies. But what I'm saying is, okay, he did a reasonable performance for 2 hours, but he's done 20 demented things in the past week. It's almost every day now. You're electing a guy that should be.
This is your Hillary's email of 2020, and you and we've been doing this for 3 years. We get together and we yell at each other for 2 hours a week, and so and I know how not everything we say comes out perfectly. We're not fucking Adam Carolla, where every sentence out of his mouth comes out perfectly formed.
These are not gaffes. You don't. So far, since the campaign has started, I've seen Biden ask 2 people to fight. Has actually threatened. Actually said, "Let's take it outside."
Yeah,
what's the matter with this guy? Is he crazy?
I almost got in a fight with a guy.
No. You're running for president. A guy questions you on your policy. You should be able to get through a discussion with a guy that's challenging you on policy without threatening to attack him. I mean, you and I don't attack each other.
Hold on. You know what we should do? Because we're talking, we should just show the video and let people reach their own conclusion.
We can't. We'll do it next week.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Let's wait for next week and we can discuss it. Because, I mean, like, I called the guy pal today. Because the guy, I'm waiting. I'm still going to the gym. I'm not anymore because they closed all the gyms. But I'm Purelling my hands 4 times at least every gym I go to. And I don't even wash it up. What I do is I get the soap, which you're supposed to wipe down the machine with, and I get the Purell, and I mix it together in my hands, and then I don't dry my hands. I just walk around with this like microbe-killing goo on my hands, so there's no chance a germ can get through this stuff. But anyway, this guy is standing next to a machine I've been waiting to use, and I do 5 sets. And the guy, he's still standing next to the machine. He's not doing it. And so I get pissed, and I have to go all the way from upstairs. I can see him from a balcony. And I walk down the stairs and around, and he's still not on the machine. I get to the machine. He's still just standing there looking at his fucking phone. He's been looking at his phone the whole time. And I get on the machine, and I start to do a set. And he's like, hey, dude, I'm using this. I go, pal, you're on your phone. And he goes, no, I'm looking up a set. And he shows me he's been surfing the internet to try to see how to do a particular leg press. So I'm like, anyway, you don't call a guy pal or champ or bud.
No, you've got anger issues, Rick. I mean, I can understand that, but normally we haven't come to blows. We haven't threatened to fight each other. We've been angry. But if this guy's going to have his finger near the nuclear button, he's got to be able to get through a discussion as well as you and me.
I don't know. All right, we'll show the video next week.
All right.
Are we done?
I'll let you have the last word.
What?
Yeah, I'll let you have the last word. Anything else you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, whether the last word is, and like I say, I don't want the stock market to go to 14,000 after peaking at 29,000. Though I did pull all my family's money out. Because it's supposed to drop 1,000 points tomorrow, even though the Fed is lowering interest rates to 0. Anyway, I don't want a bunch of grandmas and grandmas to die. But what happens? And I don't have a spring in my step because we can't go out to dinner for 6 months. People say, oh yeah, so it's not going to be the end of March. It's not every time we reach it, it's just going to keep rolling. I mean, unless we figure out a way to do things, everybody's eating in their own hazmat like chamber, where you walk into the restaurant and every fucking booth now has like a clear plastic around it and a zipper deal you have to. Anyway, there's nothing to have a spring in your step about. Carol, I have to soothe her anxiety. When I'm not increasing her anxiety by telling her new shit that's happening, I'm soothing her anxiety like 30, 40 times a day. So there's no joy in any of this. I don't know. So that's the last word, that this is a shitty time regardless of your political beliefs.
All right, well, I said I'd give you the last word, and even though I have many things to respond to, I'm going to leave it at that because that's what I said I would do. Okay. And let us meet again, hopefully in person next week.
Okay, all right, this has been interesting-ish. All right, and thank you to our director who made all this happen, even though he's suffering from he or she, they, even though they are suffering from something.
Zay. Isn't it Zay with a Z these days? If you're a Democrat,
no, we don't even know. I think people were like, that's a thing too far.
We don't even know the guy's pronoun. Anyway, he's.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you very much, Director. You make it all happen. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Signing off.